Who knows where this could go?
Hey, how's your news?
I want everybody to just start right now. Anything you can do, do it. That makes some small difference in terms of conservation, in terms of sustainability and stewardship of land, local farming, buy from farmers markets, whatever. But that's what I want. I want everybody to do what they can right now, one step. It's easy.
This is Peak Moment. We are living at a peak of human innovation, information, wealth, and health. But we're also at a peak of population and consumption, with rising temperatures and declining resources fueled by cheap oil and gas. Peak Moment Television, bringing you examples of positive responses to energy decline and climate change through local community action.
Hi, welcome to Peak Moment. I'm on beautiful Vashon Island in Washington State. I'm Janaea Donaldson, your host, and I'm here with Dana Ilo, who is a lavender farmer at Crow's Feet Lavender Farm. Welcome. And our partner, Catherine Johnson, who's on the faculty at
Leadership
Institute of Seattle.
That's correct.
Thank you for joining us. This is a beautiful setting with the lavender, and you're wearing the right thing. You both have been doing things and paying attention to peak oil and sustainability for some while. So I'm interested to know kind of how has that affected your lives? Have you done things about that? Go. You start, Dana.
Okay. So the first thing, well, not the first thing, but I've been a part of Sustainable Vashon, which is a small group of people that are looking at ways that we can create a more sustainable lifestyle. And a lot of that is on behalf of the Great Turning, which is the work that Joanna Macy is doing. And
so are you bringing some of Joanna's work here? How did she get involved? How did you get involved with her?
Well, long story short, my business partners in the lavender business and I had an astrological reading. And the astrologer, when she heard that this was something I was thinking about, which was going to study with Joanna for a month in Australia in a program called Seeds for the Future. Anyway, she just went, "You have to go."
It was just right. Whether she saw your stars or not, it was just
in my stars
for you to do.
Yeah, and in the stars for our business in some way. And so as things like that happen, everything fell into place, and I went, and what it gave me, and spending a month in a time of deep contemplation about what are the seeds for the future, I think that I have trouble finding language for it, but I know that it impacted me profoundly, and that shall I go into the things that
Sure.
Joanna...
What did she cover?
So,
Give us a little taste as if we were there with you.
Well, I don't even know how to do that, but there were 40 of us in this cove in the southwest corner of Australia, and we drank rainwater every day for 30 days and ate beautiful whole organic food. And there's so much that I came away with, but when I think about what I've done in the years since I've been back home, is that there are three things she said we need to pay attention to, and one is that we have to have holding actions, the people that are tying themselves to trees and that are out there working, to change the government and etc. And then we also need to build alternative structures, which is local community and, powering down and like creating lifeboats. And then the third thing is to open, our consciousness in kind of an engaged Buddhism way. And so I think that, I hope I'm, engaging and opening my consciousness all the time, but I think the part that I've focused on is really how do we bring our communities together to create a sustainable society. And
how are you doing that? What things are you doing sort of on the ground here in Vashon or elsewhere?
Well, I think my main focus has ended up being about food and about farming, because that is what I'm involved in.
Right.
Yeah. And that, it makes me think about we have young friends, Jen and Jason, who,
They just live down the road from us, and they they were doing farmers markets to sell their produce, and that was burning them out because they were giving up all their weekends. And so they got the idea to invite 5 families, and we're one of those 5, to farm with them in return for produce all summer. So we go up, put a few hours in each week, and then in return we can shop for our produce from the garden.
So it's another variant. It's not a CSA exactly,
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
But you put in time. How much?
Yeah.
How much time for just your vegetables for a week?
Probably 4 hours a week.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
And that works for them. I mean,
So
do
far.
they
So
sell
far.
any of their other to
Yeah.
others, or
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
They're
Okay.
actually supplying a couple restaurants here on the island.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So,
Yeah.
And but what they needed in their balance sheet was they needed some more labor, so they had
Exactly.
more time to do the other things.
Mhm.
And you, in return for 4 hours, get
Great
sunshine
food.
and good food and,
Yeah.
and good exercise and
Yeah.
some conviviality with other folks.
Exactly. Exactly.
I love the creative ideas that people are
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Other things going on with food.
Well, some of us have this dream of setting the table for the whole island and serving local food. And so one of the ways that we've started doing that is in the lavender business, we also trade labor for food in a way. And so we ask friends and neighbors to come and help us harvest the lavender, and then in exchange we feed them at the end of the evening and try to get as much local food as we can to feed them with. And so if you come for a harvest, you get a great dinner from the island.
That's really, I mean, that again celebrates your local
Right.
ness.
And it also helps build community and conviviality. And because I think, I mean, I really believe things are going to get harder. And if we don't have our people around us and community around us, that where are we?
I don't want to dwell on that part particularly.
Yes.
Harder. but I'm interested to know what you picture may happen. Because I think that if we have a sense of what may happen, we may take more steps to be able to respond to that in a way that's sane, rather than being blindsided.
well, on a short term, just the price of gas has gone up here like every place else, and where I work, I commute 2 hours one way, ferry boat, counting the ferry boat ride and
Wow.
getting up there, and the campus is in a beautiful, Bastyr University is in a beautiful wooded setting, state park-like setting, and I started asking the vice president recently about, as the price of gas goes up, it will be more costly for students to come from town to go to school. It's a commuter campus, but there's no mass transit out there that's very effective, and so the school really needs to start thinking now, because if it doesn't start now, it'll be too late, and student enrollment will drop, and
And things will fade
Yeah.
or collapse or
people
whatever.
will choose easier locations for school.
That's really thinking ahead. I think more and more groups, if they're thinking about where they need to draw people, when you have a group of people, you can do things like carpooling, several stops in various places and collect them and bring them in back and forth. So, which is one of those adaptations, one of those
Exactly.
inventions we need.
And just like our friends Jen and Jason who have the farm, they're a mile away. So we can walk to the farm or bike to the farm rather than having to drive 7 miles up to the grocery store.
So
In a perfect world.
yeah, with your rain umbrella on the winter.
Right.
So, Catherine, what has this? You've mentioned that for school. Has this been getting on the radar at all? I know that your curriculum isn't necessarily about this topic, but are you starting to filter that into what you're communicating to people? Or are you seeing people's responses? Share with us what you're
Well,
seeing.
Dana's the one who lit the fire under me. I would have been blissfully running my lawnmower on till it all ran out. And Dana started by saying, we really need to pay attention, we really need to think well, and she really started to infect me with not concern, but the excitement of doing something different.
Ooh,
Which was, it's a funny twist of thinking, to just go from, oh, it's really horrible, oh, I don't know what to do, it's too overwhelming, to, hey, we could do this, let's do that, and oh, we could do this, and the positiveness of creating new ways of doing new structures is really exciting. And so partly I've been trying to infect my students in the same kind of way. So, asking people, are you aware or do you know about this? And there's a book called Cradle to Cradle, which is about really being able to design so there's no waste. At the, so that carpeting would be designed so there was no waste. You could rent it and take it back, and they would endlessly remanufacture. And the whole book is about designing for, rather than cradle to grave, cradle to cradle.
So that you're doing the same thing that nature is doing, right? Is that we take, there's nothing wasted. There is no waste in nature.
Yeah.
Right.
And even the book is on this material that can be recycled indefinitely. It weighs a ton.
Ha!
So, I just had my students read that. And so, we're in this class studying
What was the class?
organizational analysis.
Organizational analysis.
Like, how does this organization function? And is it effective? Is it efficient? But I had them read it for a book seminar because it seemed to me that if we're studying organizational life, we should be thinking about what is it that we're actually manufacturing, and is there ways to do it differently?
And actually, if you think about it, part of what organizations do, or at least on the planet, is they too need to be able to recreate themselves or close out when their time is done, and many of them do.
Yeah.
Which some would argue is that oil is going to have a lot of that happening. The decline of oil. We'll see a lot more of that. The many of the global structures that we've had perhaps are not going to survive. I mean, at least not in this form. That's exciting. That's exciting. And I know you've told me something else and I have forgotten. What else that you... I know what I wanted to ask you. You had an experience that you called dragon dreaming. What is this? When you were in Australia, somebody taught this. What is that?
So I'll just preface it by saying I'm totally a beginner at this. So a man named John Croft, who runs the Gaia Institute in southwestern Australia and was also on the team that brought Joanna Macy's work to Australia, has devised this incredible organizational tool that is it's based on systems thinking, and that we are self-organizing systems, and that
we, now who's we?
We human beings,
or
human beings, or
okay.
a group of people.
Okay.
And so his premise is, and help me with this because it's still so new to me, but every group who has a dream needs to first of all buy into it 100%. And then he's developed this quadrant where you you dream, plan, do, and celebrate. So for every cycle of your plan, or, it's like we did a dragon dreaming Karabirt, which I'll tell you, a Karabirt for having food security on Vashon.
Okay, so this is a group of you who got together to do this process.
To learn dragon dreaming and using that as our content.
Okay.
And so, what would it look like if we had a sustainable food system on Vashon? And it was just fascinating because the point is that first you have the dream, and he asks everybody to go around the circle and just say what their dream is. And after he's asked everybody to buy into it 100%. And then you keep going around and around and around. To buy into whatever the outcome is. Like the sustainable...
You'll go with
right.
it.
And the reason that the group buys into it is because then it isn't the individual's dream anymore or a set of people's dream anymore. It's all of our dreams.
So it's a shared dream.
Yeah.
Which means it's going to be more powerful, and you have different players bringing different things to it.
Right.
Okay.
And so people go around and just keep saying what their dream is and building on each other's dreams until nobody in the circle needs to speak anymore. And so then you capture the dream, and then you begin to talk about, well, how are you going to get to it being a dream to it being an actual thing, or that you've completed the dream, that you've carried out the dream. And so in order to do that, you have to plan, and you have to take action. And then the thing that I love is, and you have to celebrate. You have to celebrate your achievements along the way. And so in the life of any group, then in that quadrant, you look at, some people are planners, and some people are doers, and some people are celebrators. But in so many groups, the celebration part gets lost
because
you just keep
on doing doing the next planning.
Right.
Well, I don't know if you know, in your work with people who are going to be in the business world, celebrate doesn't fit most of the paradigm. We do a lot of planning, and you do a lot of doing.
You do it.
And then you turn around and you plan the next set, and you do the next.
What happened to the dream and the celebration?
Well, and the reason that I think the celebration is really nice and applied, say, to the business world is that the visionaries and the planners and the implementers, the doers, often don't think of themselves as seeing eye to eye. They think of themselves as different types of people.
Okay.
And the celebrating part brings the different types of people together and keeps the dream alive. I think it really adds fuel to the fire to keep planning, to keep redreaming, keep doing in that way. And that's the value I see in it that's huge.
Well, and also to acknowledge in the celebration, like, we needed the dreamer and the planner and the doer to get to this moment. And, I mean, he's done over 175 projects throughout Australia, New Guinea, Europe, blah, blah, blah. And it was so incredible because there was a very diverse group in the room when we did it. So there are layers of projects. And so what was really exciting to me was one of the threads, and then it becomes like a roadmap. It's like a game board. Because there's all the things that are dreams and all the things that are plans and all the things that are actions and all the things that are celebrations, and it looks really chaotic. But then he says, okay, so you want to start a co-op. So then the first thing you need to do is get in touch with so-and-so, and that's part of the planning. And then the next thing you need to do is actually rent a space, and that's the action. And the third thing you need to do is open the doors and celebrate that you opened. And so what was great was that we had a co-op meeting. We're trying to get this co-op off the ground, and I said to this group, some of them had been part of the Dragon Dreaming and others hadn't, I said, are you willing to play along? Because look, if we lift this off of the big Dragon Dreaming, just the part about the co-op, what would it mean to sort of begin to fill in the blanks? And everybody was kind of like, whatever. But by the end of the night, people were so engaged because we drew the roadmap, we drew the game plan, and all of a sudden you could see that was the point, that was the place where we needed to pay attention. And that if we all focused on that, then the rest would begin to move.
And how did you know that was the... is that the place that there was no energy or nobody wanted to do it? Well, it was the place.
It just became the place to begin. Which just to name something, it's like we decided that we were not going to go through a middleman. We were going to go straight to farmers and find out, what foods we could bring to the island that were in our bioregion. And so then people focused on that, and people began to say, I'll call these people, I'll do this research, I'll order the food. And so it went from a really flat, energetic to all of a sudden people were very excited because they saw, oh yeah, that's way out there in celebration, or
it's down the road.
Yeah,
so they got it sounds like it was clear on what's up to be done now.
Yeah.
But a whole roadmap gave you a sense of
right.
We really are going to come to the place where we've created this co-op and it's happening.
Yeah. Like it's premature to rent the place because we need to do this other piece.
So you think the picture I have is that people get excited and want to do something, and I saw this with groups that are organizing around peak oil, and the first thing you hear is, well, okay, what do we do? And there's this overwhelm because you need to recruit more troops, and we need to pay attention to water, and we need to pay attention to food, and and everybody is lost in a swamp or has a million ideas which are wonderful, and you need them.
Right.
Mosquito.
So imagine the million ideas feeling like the swamp, and then you begin to assign them. Is this part of the dream? Is it part of planning? Is it part of an action? Or is it part of the celebration? So already you're breaking down what just feels like chaos into these four different places. And then, okay, so if this is a plan, then does it link up into something that someone could take an action on? And then if they take the action, then how do we celebrate it? And then how does that feed the dream again to begin it anew? It's really fascinating.
Exciting.
So, Dragon Dreaming, John Croft, he's on the web. He's writing a book. I mean, yeah, I'm excited about it. I think it's really. Do you have more?
You should tell them where the name Carabeard comes from.
Oh, and Carabeard. So
How do you spell Carabeard?
I think it's Karabirrt, and it's an Aboriginal word. So of course it has no.
That's right. You
know,
can't
English.
translate it exactly.
So John Croft was doing one of these dragon dreamings with a group of Aboriginal people in Australia, and so they're in the room, and you know, he noticed that everybody's talking, but there's this one older man sitting in the back, and he's just listening, and at the end of the day, he doesn't really say anything. He just takes John and he goes out into the hallway, and there's a huge painting, and if you're familiar with Aboriginal paintings, they use the little dots. And those little dots all signify something, you know. There's a lot of symbology in, like, the directions and the animal spirits. And so anyway, he said, well, what you're doing, and what they call their paintings are Carabeards. The dots all connect. And he said, and so this is what you're doing, is our painting.
Wow. Goosebumps. How nice. I mean,
yeah.
what
And I don't think I do the story justice.
we
but
do. We need that wisdom, that indigenous wisdom from those because they are. Of course, you need to include the dream. They're from the dream time in that land.
Exactly. Yeah.
We only have about 5 or 6 minutes left, and I know there are more stories in here about how you, other people that you know, the students, are starting to move towards that kind of more connected, more sustainable kind of life.
Yeah, there are a lot of stories. Let's see.
I remember, I mean, the one I'm going to prompt you for is your own families have had some responses. Very conservative people. You know, this is touching everybody. I mean, that's the thing about peak oil, is that it may not be the whole story, because there are other material resources declining, but it's going to be waking up a lot of us.
Well, again, it's kind of the enthusiasm is infectious. So I've been telling my parents who live in Indianapolis, Indiana, and they're very right-wing Republican people, and about the things that we're doing. You know, that we sold our 4Runner and bought a Passat so we could run biofuel in it.
That we were voting for Gore.
So you have a Passat, so you've got a biodiesel bumper sticker. I can't remember what it said.
Running biodiesel in it.
Right.
So I was telling my parents about this, and we were voting for Gore, and on it goes. And so my father says to my mother, I want to get you one more car before you go. And her health is such that she probably won't live very long. And she says, well, then I want to get a green car.
A green car. And we're not talking about the paint job.
This is in the steel belt, you know.
And so, because she perceived that when she died that we would inherit it, and that she also wanted to honor the work that we were doing, and so they got a hybrid. They got a Prius
in the middle of Ford and
Indianapolis
country. Whoa!
And my father loves it. I mean, my father is a total convert. He thinks it's the best car he's ever driven, and he tells everybody about it. And
that's really heartening. I mean, it tells us awakening can happen at any point. And I'm sure that it can happen more so with some of our families, some of our friends. And just by your telling your stories of how this is changing your own thoughts on how to live.
It's when you talk about how exciting it is versus people should do this, proselytizing thing. It's so much better to just be excited about it.
So, what are you excited about that you may not be doing quite yet? That's still in the dreaming stages, if you will. What excites you at the time we're living in?
Solar panels on the studio.
Ooh, okay. That's coming up.
Yeah.
That's a dream.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, I'd love to imagine this place totally off the grid. Have windmill, solar panels, have a hand pump. I mean, we are blessed with a great well, but we could pull it up with wind rather than, or by hand rather than electricity. And I think also just like to continue cultivating the dream of local food, that we could feed ourselves on the island. And what would that take to do that? And, the other thing is, the other thing about these people that we started talking about, Jen and Jason, who are the children of Marilee, who you visited with. So they have a little boy who's 2 now, and I get all choked up saying it, but when I came back from that month in Australia, I just kept looking at them. We had kind of an evening where I shared with my friends what I had learned. And it's like, it's for them that we do the work. It's for the young people that will be here after we're gone, and for their children and their children's children. And so just seeing the way they're choosing to live their lives in so simply and, dedicated to organic farming and choosing to raise a child in times when, who's healthy and happy, and we don't know
what the future
and
will
so I think that that obviously it deeply moves me that these incredible young people are so ingenious and brilliant about creating solutions that will take us into the future. So
hugely life affirming.
Yeah, hugely.
And you? What gives you heart at this point?
Well, I think similar to that. Somebody once, I was at a meeting not long ago, and this woman said, when a big cedar falls over and becomes a nurse log, that the life that grows on that cedar far exceeds the cedar itself. So what it produces in death, in terms of life, is far greater than its own. And that really moved me. And so when I look at the young people and I think about the future, then I would like my life to be for that.
Like a nurse log, that what you've planted, the seeds that you've planted in those that you've taught, is going to sprout all over with the new life, the new stories, or the new paradigm, which you're living and others are working to live.
Beyond our wildest imagination.
That's a fabulous vision, and I thank you both for this. This has been a fine conversation, and I will say that we'll want to come back and see how the lavender farm is going, and the panels on the roof, and
absolutely,
and how you go about encouraging. I think the celebration part of feeding Vashon with Vashon, that life cycle, the cradle to cradle that you'll do yourselves here in the cycle will be. It's exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
you for joining me.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for doing this work.
Thank you. I'm Janaea Donaldson, and you're watching Peak Moment, Community Responses for a Changing Energy Future. Please join us next time.